The anime starts off with a few people shocked to find a huge iceberg in the snowy biome. After spotting a lady encased inside the iceberg, their leader tells the whole team to contact the arcane court. But suddenly they hear a mysterious voice coming from inside the iceberg. This lady claimed herself to be a former god who had overslept thousands of years ago, which resulted in her being stuck inside the iceberg. She then demands the people to bring her the best player of this era. The scene then shifts to a reporter on a helicopter, where he's overseeing various types of games that are being held at the moment. Everyone around the world are watching the gods' games. We are then introduced to our main character, Faye, a handsome boy with glasses as he carries his suitcase around the city. Everyone is watching the gods' games, and this time there are 3 being held at once, which is quite unusual. Although there are a lot of players attending the game, the number of winners are very scarce. Faye then enters a building where everyone is shocked to see him. The girl from Overflow then greets Faye while stating that it had been 6 months since he was last spotted. Turns out Faye had been absent for 6 whole months because he was searching for a specific person who taught him how to play games when he was younger. Mrs. Overflow then invites Faye to the 17th floor to discuss an important matter. In the elevator, Mrs. Overflow told Faye that there was someone that she'd like him to meet. Apparently, the girl she was referring to was the red-haired former god who was previously encased in the iceberg. Years ago, the former god was playing tag with some humans. She then proceeded to hide under the seafloor where she fell asleep for thousands of years, causing her to be stuck inside an iceberg. Luckily, our main character here is the best player of this era. Mrs. Overflow then tells Faye to watch over the former god as he was the perfect person for this job. Mrs. Overflow then explains that in the past, spiritual beings known as gods have descended to Earth, and to this date, the reason for their descent is still unknown. Mrs. Overflow wants Faye to figure out why this god is still on this Earth, as he possesses the power to not die. Upon entering the room, it is clear that this god really loves to play games. Faye spots a dice and rolls the dice while predicting its outcome even before it reaches the ground. This amazes Mrs. Overflow, who thought it was a lucky coincidence. Suddenly, God comes out of her room. But upon seeing her, Faye was instantly reminded of the person he was looking for. Mrs. Overflow then introduces Faye to the god Leche. She mentions that Faye was the first player to reach 3 wins in the gods' games, a feat never done before, which makes him the best player of this era. She then mentions that Faye will be assigned as her supervisor from now on. However, Faye is still in awe as the god in front of him is a perfect replica of the person who taught him when he was little. Mrs. Overflow then snaps him out of his daydream and leaves him in charge of supervising Leche. As Faye was about to introduce himself, Leche flies towards Faye, which startles him. Leche then proposes to play a game in order to introduce themselves. The name of the game is Self-Intro Memory, and it is a memory game where you match 2 of the same cards before being able to ask a question. Each card has a question on it, and when you match 2 of the same cards, your opponent has to answer the question truthfully. Leche then shuffles the deck of cards, but Faye points out that she needs to reshuffle the whole deck as he's able to memorize the whole deck's position. This shocks the god as Faye was able to memorize the location of the cards very quickly. She praises Faye for not wanting an advantage even when facing a god. Leche then adds a twist to the game and she floats the whole deck of cards in different orbits and speeds. This will cause the card's location to constantly change, making memorizing it impossible. In another room, it turns out that Mrs. Overflow is secretly monitoring the 2 through a hidden camera placed in the room. The game then starts with Faye making the first move. He picked 2 cards, but both of the topics didn't match, making it Leche's turn. She bends over to focus on the cards more, but upon seeing this posture, Faye tells her to stop since this posture is a bit dangerous. She then leaps onto a chair and begins to choose her cards, but fails to match the cards either. After a few turns, Faye was the first one to match 2 cards. The cards he got was Hometown, and he proceeded to ask Leche about her whereabouts. Leche then explains that most gods are from the same place called the Elements. It is also the place where the gods' games are held and humans can only enter using a special door. Mrs. Overflow then explains that the gods' games appeared because the gods were bored. They handpicked a select few of humans and gave them prizes which made them gain superhuman strength or magic powers that made them eligible to challenge the gods. However, those powers can only be used in the elements, and as a reward for winning a game, they'll be able to use a part of their powers in the real world. Players will lose their arises if they lose 3 games and will complete the gods' games if they win 10 games. Players who win a total of 10 games will be given a special celebration by the gods, which is still unknown to this day. The game then continues where Leche matches the 2 name cards and Faye introduces himself. After a few rounds, Faye realizes something. Turns out there is a deeper meaning to this game, as there was a wild card which enabled them to ask any question they could think of. Seconds later, Leche matches the 2 blank cards which were indeed the wild card mentioned before. She then asked Faye's true intentions on wanting to get closer to her, remembering the rules to this game where every question must be answered truthfully. Faye told her everything they had planned and her true motives behind everything. Turns out, Leche had already seen through everything and she just wanted to test Faye. She told him that she liked him from the very start and that she'd trust him. She then tells Faye to call her Leche from now on, indicating the beginning of their relationship. But before ending the game, Leche then asked Faye on what he would have asked if he had gotten the wild card. Faye revealed that he wanted to ask why Leche stayed on Earth and why she specifically chose him to be her supervisor. It's all because Faye was the only rookie who had gotten 3 wins in such a short period of time after his debut, which has never been done before. She then mentions that she wants to clear the gods' games with Faye as she's no longer a god herself. Turns out, Leche came down to this realm because she wanted to play with the humans. However, the trip down here was a one-way trip, which meant she can no longer return to being a god. Her plan is to win 10 games with Faye in order to become a god again. Hearing this sparked Faye's interests as Leche just revealed a reward for clearing the gods' games. She mentions that when a player wins 10 games, the gods will grant the players unlimited wishes. Leche then drags Faye out of her room and brings him to the Divine Gate. They then entered the gate and challenged their first game together, Hide and God Seeks. The Titan God then caused some minor destruction in the surrounding buildings, causing debris to fall on the participants. They quickly use their abilities to shield themselves. However, Leche is confused on why Faye isn't using his power. He then explains that his power is immortality, which isn't something that can be casted. Suddenly, a chunk of debris was going to fall on Leche, but she effortlessly destroyed it, reminding Faye of her status as a former god. However, Leche admitted she couldn't exert her full power, finding Faye's concern for her cute. 10 minutes ago, after passing through the portal, Faye and Leche arrived in a place reminiscent of the city. They encountered other participants, including Asta, whom Faye greeted. Faye mentioned his recent return from his 6-month absence, surprising Asta. Leche then introduced herself as well. Everyone was shocked by her presence, but she reassured them that she was on the human team. Suddenly, a small creature named Meep appeared, welcoming everyone. Meep explained that this is the Titan God's territory and that registration for the game is closed, resulting in 18 participants. Baldy then told his team to start the stream for the broadcast worldwide, and they were ready to begin. Miss Overflow watched the broadcast anxiously in hopes that Faye could fulfill humanity's mission by winning the gods' games. Meep then gave them instructions as Baldy reminded everyone of the Titan God's fondness for battle games. The girl then analyzed their chances in the previous games against the Titan God, realizing they had a 14% chance of winning with the current number of participants. But despite the slim odds, the group's hope remained high, especially with Leche on their side. However, Meep delivered a twist. This time, the game wouldn't be a typical battle, but it will be a game of tag among the gods. Faye questioned the rules, thinking it was a regular game of tag within the confined area of the city. However, Meep clarified that while they couldn't leave the area illuminated by light, they could still lose without being tagged. With that, Meep concluded the explanation, gatekeeping details about the winning and losing conditions. To make matters worse, they had only 5 minutes to flee before the game started, but the Titan's impatience led it to start early. As the Titan pursued them with great speed, the participants scattered, attempting to blend into the shadows cast by the buildings. Faye and Leche found themselves with 4 others, including Asta, and one of them suggested hiding inside the buildings for safety. Asta agreed and began moving towards a building entrance, distancing herself from the group. However, Faye stopped her, cautioning against the idea as the Titan likely knew their approximate location. Just as he spoke, the Titan appeared and headed straight for Asta, leaving her no time to flee. Asta's sudden change surprised everyone. Her body turned red and her wind magic started attacking her friends. Seeing this, Faye quickly figured out that anyone caught by the god will become his ally, a rule Meep had mentioned. Even though Asta told them to run, she couldn't control herself and accidentally tagged 3 friends. The Titan also took out one of them, making more people join his side. With only Faye and Leche left, they tried to run as far as possible, knowing it wasn't safe anymore. The Titan went after someone else, but Asta kept chasing Faye and Leche. He then noticed that the number of players had changed a lot, from 18 against 1 to 14 against 5. However, he noticed that only half of Asta's body turned red, meaning she wasn't totally out of the game. Faye and Leche understood each other without speaking and made a plan on the spot. They begin by trapping Asta to stop her magic, and then Leche touches her to bring her back to their team. Faye realized they could get their friends back, and the Titan started chasing them again. Faye then told Asta to hide, leaving only him and Leche to escape from the Titan. As they ran, Leche noticed how well they worked together. Faye liked the challenge, and Leche thought it was fun to see humans fighting gods so seriously. This reminded Faye of the girl from his past who loved games just for fun. Despite finding the game exciting, Faye was determined to figure out how to win. As they ran, they found themselves surrounded by all the 15 players who had been caught, leaving only Faye, Leche, and Asta on the human team. Seeking refuge, they dashed into a building, with Leche destroying the connector to the neighboring building to slow down the Titan's allies. However, the Titan was still on their trail, and they needed a plan to win. Reflecting on their situation, Faye realized they needed to make all the players switch sides to win. Leche immediately grasped what he meant, understanding the game's hidden rules, which included elements of tag, hide and seek, and another undisclosed game. With a clear strategy in mind, they split up. Leche would bait the players out of the building, while Faye headed to the rooftop. As they executed their plan, the Titan destroyed the surrounding buildings, intending to end the game by trapping them. And Faye was determined to finish their plan before it was too late. Upon reaching the rooftop, Faye faced the Titan's imminent approach. The Titan tagged Faye, seemingly reducing the human team even further. However, thanks to his power to avoid death, Faye remained on the same team, defying everyone's expectations. Despite the odds still stacked against them at 16 against 3, Faye informed the Titan that the game was about to change. Explaining the hidden conditions of the game, Faye likened the city to a game board, where the gods' team took control of the pieces by tabbing them. Now it was the humans' turn to play and reclaim the players for their team. Similar to the game of Reversi, where pieces are flipped, the cityscape served as the game board. As Faye elaborated, the destruction of all the buildings marked the end of the game, similar to filling the board in Reversi. The winner was determined by the side with more pieces left on the board. Further explaining the conditions, Faye revealed that when someone was tagged by the Titan and others changed teams without being tagged, it was because they were sandwiched against in a specific way that flipped their allegiance, following the rules of Reversi. Faye's ultimate goal was to distract the Titan, allowing Leche and Asta to take action. As planned, the girls came out from hiding and Asta strategically threw 7 participants against the wall, lining them up as before. By touching 2 people, they reversed the allegiance of everyone in the rows, shifting the score to 10 humans against the Titan's team. With the last building collapsing, signaling the end of the game, the humans emerged victorious. Even the Titan god accepted the defeat gracefully. And as everyone returned to the human world, Ms. Overflow celebrated the historic victory, marking the first triumph of humanity against the gods in 35 days. This tag game garnered record viewership worldwide. Grateful for Faye's contribution to the victory, Ms. Overflow asked about his experience partnering with the former goddess. Faye expressed admiration for Leche's impressive abilities and remarked on their remarkable synergy as a team. However, Leche humbly attributes their success not to her former status as a goddess, but to the synergy they shared as a team. She reminds Faye that she used to play alone until they met, sparking memories of his solitary gaming days. Miss Overflow reflects on Leche's strength even back then, but now together as a team, Faye can finally pursue his dream of completing the gods' games. She then asks about Faye's motivations for winning the game as she herself aimed to regain her goddess status. Faye then tells her that his goal is to find a person from his childhood, a mentor who taught him about games. Despite always losing, she encouraged him with a smile until one disappearing one day, leaving him longing to express his gratitude. Leche finds Faye's wish intriguing but wonders if he has any other clues besides her love for games. Faye admits he only remembers her red hair, reminiscent of Leche's own. As it couldn't possibly be her due to Leche's 3,000-year entrapment in ice, she hopes Faye can find his mentor. However, Faye contemplates that meeting someone so similar to his mentor must be fate, and now, united as partners, they will strive to conquer the gods' games together. That night, Miss Overflow realizes that they needed more teammates to boost their chances in the god games. Ms. Overflow discloses that each team requires at least 10 people to increase their odds of winning. Since there's no limit to human participation, they'll only face off against one god per game. However, Leche isn't open to teaming up with other people. Faye then uses online forums to recruit teammates while scouting for players near the registration booth. He knows a team captain named Ash and calls him to propose joining forces, citing their recent victory. Initially feeling honored, Ash agrees but changes his mind when he learns that Leche is with Faye. He reveals Leche's past bad reputation, stemming from an incident where she overreacted to a team mocking the gods' games, which resulted in them being in the hospital. Despite finding Leche cute, Ash declines her inclusion due to her bad reputation, causing Leche to feel disheartened. Disappointed but still determined, Faye seeks another team and finds one with a skilled game analyst, offering valuable strategic support. Faye reaches out to a team captain named Yuki, proposing to join their team. Initially excited, Yuki abruptly hangs up when she learns Leche is with Faye. Confused, Faye questions Leche about Yuki's reaction, prompting her to reveal a past incident where she accidentally injured Yuki during a practice match. Leche insists she meant no harm and attempted to apologize, but Faye senses her unease and accuses her of lying. Leche then recalls the incident, explaining her lack of control at the time. Despite feeling disheartened by the rejection, Leche expresses her genuine curiosity about humans, hoping to interact with them positively. Realizing they may struggle to find vacant spots on existing teams, Faye suggests forming their own team. They set out to recruit members, prioritizing individuals with valuable skills. They then spotted a girl named Pearl who possesses teleportation abilities. This impresses Faye, and he considers inviting her to join their team. However, Pearl surprises them by expressing her desire to resign as an apostle. Leche, however, is unwilling to let her give up so easily and proceeds to burn Pearl's resignation letter. As Pearl becomes flustered, they try to convince her that they want her on their team. Faye sweetens the deal by offering to treat her to a parfait if she listens to their proposal. Overjoyed, Pearl quickly agrees to hear them out and introduces herself, mentioning her mixed record of 1 win and 1 loss. This puzzled Faye even more since she tried to retire after just 1 loss. Faye then reaches out to Pearl, questioning her decision to retire. Turns out Pearl blames herself for her team's loss in the last game. During the game, their task was to protect the leader, but she accidentally swapped places with the team captain while being pursued, resulting in their defeat. Despite possessing the ability to teleport and swap places with others, Pearl feels that she is incompetent and believes her power isn't useful because of its limitations. Leche tries to convince Pearl that it's okay to make mistakes and invites her to join her team, believing in a supportive environment where errors are embraced as part of the learning process. However, Pearl is determined to retire, teleporting away before they can persuade her even further. Leche then suggests letting her go, but Faye proposes on investigating further, unwilling to let Pearl's fear decide her future. They decide to visit Pearl's dorm only to find it unlocked and empty. Initially, they thought that she had already moved out. However, Faye accidentally spots Pearl almost in her peak form, which surprises both Faye and Leche. However, the situation takes a troubling turn as she becomes fixated on Pearl's huge missiles, prompting her to jump at Pearl in an attempt to steal it from her. Pearl then explains that she's been using portals to access her room, hence why she didn't remember to lock her door. She shares with Faye that she became an apostle last year and has always admired him, feeling not competent enough as his teammate due to his exceptional abilities. As they talk, Faye notices gifts in Pearl's room which was intended for her former teammates. Seeing this, Leche then lectures her, asserting that games should be enjoyed, not filled with blame. Faye then encourages Pearl to seek redemption and proposes that the 3 of them join her old team for the next game, believing in her potential. Despite Pearl's hesitation, Faye urges her to give one last try, assuring her that he won't stop her from leaving after the game ends. Moved by Faye's passion and encouragement, Pearl decides to follow his advice and join her old team for the next game. As they prepare, Ms. Overflow secretly reveals that she bent the rules to make this possible, putting pressure on them to succeed and make it up to her. Despite her nerves, Faye reassures Pearl that this is her chance for redemption. Together, they enter the gate, only to find themselves falling from the sky. Suddenly, Shenlong appears before them, recognized by Faye as the undefeated god of despair, Ouroboros. Instead of fear, Faye is actually filled with excitement about challenging the god. He realizes they need a solution to survive the fall and suggests using Pearl's powers. However, Pearl's power has a limit of 30 meters. They then use Leche's ability to slow their descent and manage to land safely. Meeting with Pearl's former group, Faye seeks information exchange. But Oven, the captain of the Inferno team, reveals that 4 apostles have already been eliminated. 3 didn't survive the initial fall, and the 4th was caught by creatures known as Leviathans, which wait for fallen humans in order to devour them. The grim reality of the game worries some participants, as losing would make them lose their apostle status. Despite the challenges, Oven motivates his team, reminding them of the global broadcast of the game. However, Faye notices a sense of giving up among the players, doubting the possibility of winning against Ouroboros. However, his excitement surges when he learns about the game's objective, which is to make Ouroboros say a certain word. As the group goes deeper into Ouroboros' massive body, they fall into a trap set by the god. The Meep then reveals that they will be trapped until they discover the forbidden word which they have already mentioned before. Despite numerous attempts, they struggle to remember every word spoken during the match. But eventually, Faye recalls the word ouch, spoken by Lei and Pearl when they fell, freeing the group from the trap. Moving to another part of Ouroboros' body, Faye notices that the god doesn't understand human language. He deduces that the condition for victory isn't to make Ouroboros literally say the forbidden word, but to evoke some form of pain. However, their attempts to inflict damage were useless. Desperate, Leche unleashes her full goddess strength, creating a powerful gust of wind. The impact causes some participants to be swept away and eliminated by the Leviathans, causing more fear to the players. Upon witnessing the aftermath of her actions, Leche quickly apologizes to the group. Captain Oven quickly accepts her apology as he's reminded of her status as a foreign god. However, they soon realize that their attacks didn't appear to cause any pain to Ouroboros. Just as they're grappling with this revelation, Meep suddenly remembers a forgotten secret rule, explaining that a specific action will trigger an event, allowing the second secret rule to be performed momentarily. As tension mounts, Pearl notices that the Leviathans are trailing the group, sparking fear within her. Seeking comfort, she runs to Faye, but he gently reminds her of their purpose, which was to showcase her potential to the Inferno team. Encouraging her to face her fears, Faye urges Pearl to stay strong and demonstrate her capabilities. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Pearl agrees to make an effort and promises to stay focused. Together, they search for Ouroboros' weak point and eventually find a scale on its tail that stands out from the rest. Excited by the discovery, Pearl becomes absorbed in the idea of exploiting the weak point, ignoring Faye's concerns about assuming things without proper evidence. However, Faye recognizes the need to conduct a test and instructs Pearl to attack the weak point cautiously. Pearl draws Captain Oven's attention and strikes Ouroboros' tail, causing it to light up in response. However, she fails to retreat as instructed, prompting Leche to intervene just in time to shield them from the attacks launched by Ouroboros' tail. However, the swift counterattack eliminates several players and nearby Leviathans. Realizing the danger caused by their actions, Oven scolds Pearl for her recklessness. She tries to apologize to the group, explaining that she only wanted to be helpful. However, Faye reassures her, emphasizing that he would have punched it either way. He assures Pearl that even if he had been eliminated during the attempt, he wouldn't blame her. Faye believes that Ouroboros' tail wasn't intended to act as a trap, as a god as strong as it wouldn't be satisfied with only a few eliminations. He suggests that there must be a way to achieve victory, possibly linked to the first secret rule mentioned by Meep. But despite Oven's disagreement, Faye argues that Ouroboros could have eliminated far more participants if it had truly intended to. Leche acknowledges the suspicious nature of the attack, noting that hundreds of lights missed their target. Oven then questions Faye's next steps, to which Faye responds that they need to uncover the second secret rule of the game. Although uncertain about its nature, Faye points out that they have the luxury of time as there's no time limit in the match. As Faye calmly analyzes the situation, Team Inferno grows increasingly impatient, thinking about forfeiting the game, which is usually allowed without penalty in matches against Ouroboros. The discussion turns tense when Oven reminds the team of the consequences of forfeiting, particularly due to Pearl's mistake in a previous game they played together 6 months ago. This causes her teammates to direct their anger towards Pearl, who feels guilty and ashamed. Leche, angered by the group's mistreatment of Pearl, initially threatens to send them back to the real world herself, but quickly regains her composure. She clarifies that her anger stems not from their argument with Pearl, but is caused by everyone's anger directed to each other even when they're currently participating in this fun game. As tensions escalate within the group, they find it odd that Leche seems to be enjoying the chaotic situation. However, Leche points out that Faye is the one who's more immersed into the game. He continues to reflect on the events, especially on Pearl's activation of the first secret rule. Deciding to activate the rule again, Faye warns of potential casualties but urges the others to keep watching the match via transmission, promising a victory next time. He instructs Leche to strike Ouroboros' tail with all her might, resulting in a massive eruption of lights that eliminates all players except Faye, Pearl, and Leche, who shielded the other two from the counterattack. The sudden reaction of the Leviathans to Ouroboros' irritation makes Pearl question their nature, realizing that the game never specified their role. Discovering that they can use the Leviathans, Faye takes Pearl onto one while Leche joins another. They found out that by attacking Ouroboros' tail and provoking a counterattack, they can control the Leviathans for a limited time. In this moment of revelation, Meep appears, elated that someone has finally reached the final stage of the game with the final task of making Ouroboros feel pain and say the forbidden word. Leche recognizes the need to discover Ouroboros' true weak point, and Faye deduces that it must be on the underside of its body, as they hadn't found anything anywhere above. Eventually, they locate Ouroboros' eyes, confirming them as the true weak point. However, they encounter a defense system as they approach, with one eye launching attacks as they get close to the other. Faye notices the Leviathan's eyes blinking, signaling the end of their control of the creatures. With quick thinking, Faye whispers something to Pearl, and she prepares to act at the right moment. Leche quickly springs into action, while Faye draws Ouroboros' attention away, allowing Leche to strike one of its eyes, cracking it. However, the other eye counterattacks, causing Leche to fall, though this was part of the plan. As Faye moves in to deliver the final blow, Captain Oven and his team watch the match's transmission, doubting Faye's ability to act in time. Yet moments before the other eye launches its attack, Faye orders Pearl to teleport him to safety, causing the attack to hit the other eye, which was already weakened by Leche's earlier strike, resulting in its shattering. As Ouroboros screams in pain, cheers erupt from those watching the transmission. They realize that despite being eliminated, victory was given to the entire group. Captain Oven acknowledges that Pearl has redeemed herself in this game. As the game concludes, Ouroboros appears in her human form, acknowledging her defeat. She presents Faye with a special reward for defeating him for the first time, a fragment of her eye known as a god's crown. This crown allows its bearer to challenge Ouroboros anytime they choose to. Ouroboros also promises to make the next game 100 times more difficult and challenges the trio to participate again. The scene then shifts to a girl named Nell Reckless who awakens from a startling dream about a game. She then finds the TV still on, broadcasting Faye's victorious match against Ouroboros. Inspired by Faye's playing style, Nell decides to dedicate her life to following him. On the other hand, Leche expresses her frustration to Miss Overflow upon learning that they won't be able to participate in their branch's games despite recruiting Pearl to join their team. Miss Overflow explains that there is a huge waiting list of players due to Faye and Leche's unprecedented victory against Ouroboros, which inspired many apostles to participate. However, our addicted goddess is determined to not give up on participating and decides to forcefully steal the divine gate. This made Faye share his concerns with Miss Overflow about Leche's potential troublemaking if deprived of games, which Miss Overflow agrees to and suggests that the group participate in the World Games Tour Championship instead, which led them to embark on a train trip to the city of the Sacred Springs, Malra, to compete in the championship. During the journey, Pearl reflects on retired players who use their arises to protect the city and advance the outside world. They also remember Miss Overflow's explanation that the World Games Championship invites athletes from around the globe. The defeat of Ouroboros resulted in numerous requests for Faye, Leche, and Pearl to participate, as apostles who triumph over unbeatable gods are hailed as heroes. After the Miss Overflow explains everything to the team, Pearl uses a dart game to decide which city they should go to. She feels honored to be in charge of deciding this, and her dart ends up hitting the city of the Springs' sacred source, Malra. After a long journey, the trio arrives at the location, and Leche is excited to explore the game stores and discover which games are famous there. However, Faye reminds them that they should first visit the Malra branch. At that moment, Pearl notices a girl holding a welcome sign for Faye's team, which surprises them. They find it suspicious that she was a complete stranger, but seemed to be looking for them everywhere. When Nell notices Faye and the girls looking at her, she approaches them with great excitement, prompting the trio to flee. However, Nell's arise gives her absurd speed, allowing her to easily catch up with them. Impressed by Nell's superhuman physical strength, Faye asks whether she's an apostle. Nell then introduces herself and explains that she's a former player from the city of Malra who watched his match against Ouroboros and decided to be his follower, even willing to do anything for him. This confession embarrasses Faye even more, and he seeks support from Leche and Pearl to get out of the situation. However, the two quickly judge him, thinking that Faye has some interest in the unknown girl. Nell begs Faye again to allow her to be his subordinate, but he takes advantage of the distraction to run away with the girls. Nell notices the trio fleeing and runs to catch up with them, forgetting to check the street before crossing. When she realizes her mistake, she sees a moving car heading straight towards her. In order to avoid being hit, she uses her power to kick the car away, successfully saving herself but putting the driver's life in danger. Worried that she may have caused an accident, Nell checks on the driver, allowing Faye and his team to reach the Malra branch without being followed. Upon arrival, Faye notices the statue of the water spirit Undyne. However, the people around quickly recognize him as the apostle who defeated Ouroboros. Suddenly, a tall man appears behind Pearl, startling her. She runs to ask for help from the local guard, thinking the man is a pervert, but he soon introduces himself as Bale, the manager of the Malra branch of the Arcane Court. Bale takes the team up the stairs of the building to his office on the 8th floor, refusing to take the elevator due to it being a healthy option. On the way, Bale explains that the main event of the World Games Championship will be in 3 days, during which the gods play. For the event, they rented the city sports stadium and sold 10,000 tickets. Bale also mentions that the next day there will be a friendly match, and he would like the 3 of them to participate because several players want to compete with a former goddess in Faye, known as the best rookie in recent years. Faye agrees to participate, and Pearl is swayed by the popularity of their group, thinking that she must also be becoming famous for participating in defeating Ouroboros. Later, Bale takes the trio to a room to show several photos of the previous year's World Games Championship, including those of the people who came to the city as guests at the time. Leche notices that in one of the photos, the team wears black uniforms, and Faye remembers that that color belongs to the best team of the branch. Bale takes the opportunity to explain that the golden embroidery on the uniform indicates that it belongs to the main branch of the arcane court. At that moment, an apostle in a black uniform named Dax Gear appears and recognizes the team as visitors due to the uniform's blue embroidery. Bale notes that Dax has always wanted to meet the visitors before the games and begins to introduce Dax to the group. However, Bale quickly warns him to speak politely as he's talking to a former goddess. But Dax doesn't seem to care about it and makes it clear that he won't give them any special treatment because he's only interested in knowing if the three of them are good players or not. Leche is happy to meet an apostle who only has eyes for games, and Pearl notices that Dax wears a black uniform. The manager then explains that he is a newcomer who joined the branch a year ago and assembled his team much faster than anyone else in the world. Besides winning against a god in his first match, he also mentions that so far Dax has won 3 games and lost 1, becoming the current representative of the Mara branch. Impressed, Pearl comments that the guy is a prodigy just like Faye, which Dax agrees, stating that the 2 players were destined to meet. He also praises Faye's victory against the Titan and Ouroboros and invites him to join his team named Tempest Cruiser. Dax explains that he is gathering talented players from around the world because he intends to form the strongest team in history and completely dominate the game of the gods, with Faye being the missing piece. However, Faye thanks him for the invitation and compliments but clarifies that he came to the city only to participate in the World Games Championship. Dax accepts his refusal and leaves, although it seems he will not give up on getting what he wants. Later, Faye talks to his team and explains that he has been thinking about what kind of game they will participate in, and in his research, he accidentally came across information about Nell. Faye reveals that Nell retired a month ago with 3 wins and 3 losses, which wasn't really a good record. But from what he saw, she was a good player because she could easily follow the captain's orders well and cared about supporting her teammates. However, in a game called God's Statue, where 3 players were needed to press a button, the group used the 4th participant as bait to attract the attention of the god. But when that participant was disqualified, they all panicked upon seeing that the god went into full surveillance, and the captain ended up surrendering without even trying to find another solution. With most giving up, Nell lost the game, even though she begged her team not to give up victories so easily, as they could very well have tried to win with just 3 players. With this game, Nell acquired 3 losses and was forced to retire. Faye comments that he was curious about the match, and Pearl observes that Nell was the opposite of her because she had a defeat due to her own mistake, and was choosing to retire of her own free will. Unlike Nell, who acquired a defeat because of her team and was forced into retirement even though she probably wanted to continue participating in the God Games. Faye agrees that Pearl may be right and regrets running away from Nell before she could explain her situation better. At that moment, the doorbell rings and Pearl goes to answer, thinking it's the manager Bale. However, upon opening the door, she discovers Nell pretending to be a room service employee. Nell tries to maintain her disguise, but everyone recognizes her by her voice and hair color. This caused her to run away before Faye could explain that he wanted to talk to her. But after stopping running, Nell herself wondered why she fled like that. Suddenly, Dax appears and says that doing something so pathetic doesn't suit her. He then continues by saying that they both entered the branch as colleagues 2 years ago, but unlike her, he survived. Dax then points out about what sets them apart, which was just simply their teammates. Despite her amazing abilities, she was unlucky with her allies and was forced to retire. The trio prepares to play, excited to participate in a championship at a venue as grand as the sports stadium. Before they go, Nell shows up to warn them about their opponents, who will be Dax's team. Even for someone like Faye, it won't be an easy match because Dax's game sense is undeniable. Nonetheless, she tells them that she'll be cheering for the 3 in the audience, and they must win no matter what. This surprises the trio as they learned that Nell came there just to tell them that she'll be cheering for them, which made them happy nonetheless. Then the team heads to the stadium where a huge crowd awaits. Dax greets them and makes it clear that he came there to be the winner and is not willing to be humiliated. Faye observes that his opponent is intense, making it clear that this is a compliment. Dax explains that his way of acting depends on his opponent, and to make it a fair match, a random game will be selected from the thousands installed at the venue. Then Dax asks the operator to start the selected game, and an augmented reality video appears, causing various data to appear throughout the stadium, much to Faye's surprise. The game displayed on the screen turns out to be Subaruku, but with a twist. It's played with cards instead of dice. As this game requires 4 players, each team must choose 2 players. Dax then introduces Kelrich Shi from his guild as their second player. He then predicts that Faye will partner with Leche, but Faye surprises everyone by choosing Pearl instead. Leche wishes them luck and moves to the spectator's seat to cheer for them. With that, the game begins, accompanied by the host explaining the rules. The objective is simple: reach the finish line first or eliminate opponents by depleting their life points with traps and magic cards. The game offers 4 classes: Wizard, Healer, Traveler, and Trapper. Before selecting their classes, each player receives 5 magic cards at random, divided into attack, recovery, and special cards, totaling 72 different cards to aid in victory. However, Faye receives a secret card exclusive to the Healer class, while Pearl gets a rare card usable when low on life points and cards. With a surplus of recovery cards, they base their role choices on their hands. Faye opts for the Traveler class, followed by Pearl choosing the Healer class. However, the opposing team both chooses the Wizard class, emphasizing offense. In this game, there's a twist. Players are given 6 different cards to determine their movement. Additionally, there are 3 types of squares. Golden squares grant 2 magic cards, silver squares grant 1 magic card, and red squares deal 7 damage to players. However, if 2 players land on the same square, they cannot draw any cards. Faye chooses the 6th card and Pearl chooses the 4th, but since both Faye and Dax chose to land on the same square, neither can draw cards. Dax realizes that Faye is attempting to prevent him from drawing cards and proceeds with his turn. He uses the Wizard class secret card, creating a barrier that doubles damage to opponents but affects all players. Pearl then takes her turn next, drawing 1 card before ending her turn. Coverage, however, lands on a golden square and casts an offensive spell, Twin Bolt. The spell deals 1 damage initially, but due to her Wizard class dealing an additional damage and the barrier's effect, both Faye and Pearl receive 4 damage. As their health dwindled rapidly, Pearl felt the weight of worry settling in, but Faye remained steadfast, assuring her they could endure the attacks. Courage then deployed another barrier card and concluded her turn. With the start of the second round, Pearl unleashed her signature spell, Pearl Fire, naming it after herself. However, Dax countered with his own creation, Dax Thunder, resulting in an icy attack that reduced Pearl's health to 8. Responding to Dax's assault, Kelrich unleashed another devastating magic card, further depleting Pearl's health to just 1 point. In a desperate move, Pearl activated a card that negated 9 points of damage, leveraging her class perks. But Dax swiftly nullified any recovery magic with another card, rendering Pearl's attempt futile. Faye, however, reacted swiftly, using a card to nullify the damage and counterattacking Dax with a light sword, dealing 5 damage. He then played another card, sacrificing 1 from his hand to heal them both for 3 health points. Following suit, Pearl utilized another card to heal herself once more. As the third round began, Dax's unexpected move to the red square surprised everyone, inflicting 7 damage upon himself. Pearl then continued by erecting a barrier, nullifying all magic effects around her, while Faye opted for the golden square to draw 2 cards. Kelrich, brimming with confidence, initiated her turn with a devastating Mega Flame, breaking through Pearl's barrier. Following this, she played a card forcing all players to draw until they had 4 cards each. Before concluding her turn, Kelrich cast a timed magic set to activate in the next round. Upon landing on the red square, Dax's true strategy came to light. He aimed to reverse the trap's damage onto Pearl using a specific card. Faye, however, reacted quickly and countered with his own card. But to his surprise, Dax had already anticipated this move and sealed all of Faye's movements for the round. Kelrich then unveiled her earlier casted magic, which dealt damage based on the number of cards drawn by each player, leaving Pearl at 0 health. But Pearl activated a unique card triggered when her health hit 0, granting her an additional turn, albeit with 20 damage at the end of her turn. Capitalizing on her extra turn, Pearl launched a lightning bolt at Dax, reducing him to 1 health. She followed up with another Pearl Fire, which was countered by Dax's healing card. Kelrich then intervened with her own healing card, which was then promptly countered by Pearl's card, dealing damage equal to the number of cards she had played. However, Dax had already anticipated their moves and prepared a counter. He activated a card that redirected the damage dealt to him onto Kelrich, ensuring his survival. Thinking they had emerged victorious, Dax let out a triumphant laugh. Just as the tension reached its peak, Pearl unveiled her trump card, the rare card she had mentioned earlier. With this card, she retrieved the secret card that Faye had discarded earlier in the second round. This secret card transferred the 20 damage she was supposed to receive from her last dance card back to Dax, sealing their victory in today's game. As the match concluded, Dax's laughter echoed, declaring Faye as his destined rival and marking the beginning of their intertwined fates. This declaration puzzled Faye, who found Dax's behavior erratic. Nonetheless, he praised Pearl for her incredible performance. Pearl, however, couldn't help but question the opponent's seemingly heightened excitement despite their loss. After the match, Leche went around the city to shop for rare games, proudly flashing her platinum credit card to the shop owners, knowing it had unlimited usage. She instructed the owners to ship all the games to their office in ruin. However, Faye quickly discovered her actions and gave her a little pep talk, reminding her that the card belonged to Miss Overflow, who had specifically told them not to overuse it. Leche listened to Faye's warning but cheekily said she would finish her spree after buying out a few more stores. Once her shopping was done, they regrouped with Pearl, who had bought a lot of food as a self-reward for their victory in the previous day's game. Suddenly, a group of girls approached Leche asking for a picture and her autograph. Leche, who was often avoided in their hometown due to her dangerous reputation, was surprised by the attention. Pearl also noted that if people didn't know how dangerous Leche was, they would find her cute. Faye was even more shocked when fans started approaching him, forming a long line for his autograph. He was in awe, having never received this kind of treatment, even in his hometown. Seeing the two crowded with fans, Pearl hoped she would also be acknowledged as she had participated in the game yesterday. However, to her dismay, no one approached her, leaving her feeling sad and hungry. Overwhelmed by the fan meeting, Faye mentioned it had been 6 months since he last signed anything. Hearing this, Leche playfully asked for his autograph, attributing it to experiencing human culture. Faye, taken aback, asked for her autograph pad, which Leche didn't have. She then told Faye to sign the back of her ribbon, wanting her autograph to be special and unique. The flustered Faye then agreed to her request and signed her ribbon. However, as he finishes, Leche then mentions that she would treasure his autograph, making Faye blush even more. Suddenly, Pearl came back and questioned the two, mentioning that they were standing awfully close to each other. A huge crowd then caught their attention and they realized it was because of Dax. She explained that they were filming a broadcast about Dax eating in real time, which thousands of people found entertaining. Rumor had it that the show alone brought in twice the money of an average apostle. Suddenly, Kelrich joined the conversation, attributing the show's success to Dax's popularity. She boasted about Dax but clarified that they were just business partners with no personal ties or feelings for him, but soon excused herself to take pictures of Dax eating. Out of the blue, Faye called out to Nell, who had been watching the trio for quite some time. She quickly approached Faye, commended him for his performance yesterday, and proposed to be an analyst for Faye's team, but was quickly refused. Not wanting to give up, she then suggested being Faye's personal maid, which Leche promptly rejected. After being rejected twice, Nell decided to leave but was stopped by Faye's words. He asked her about her true intentions, doubting that she really wanted to be an analyst or a maid. Faye then invited her to an arcane court meeting to be held the next day. At the arcane court, they were welcomed by Balaguer, who mentioned their upcoming battle against the gods. He explained that their headquarters had selected 12 members from their branch to assist in today's game. Confused, Nell butted in, questioning her presence there. But Bale explained that Faye had told him she wanted to observe the game. Faye, however, didn't disclose anything further and told her that a teammate is supposed to stay close and cheer for their teammates. He asked her to trust in him and cheer for them and proceeded to enter the game. They found themselves in a vast desert, filled with nothing but sand. Soon, they were greeted by Dax and Kelrich, who were also participating in the game. Dax introduced them to the other team, led by Camilla, but suddenly, to everyone's surprise, Dax told Faye that this was his event and it wasn't his place to interfere. After his motivational speech, Dax called out to the gods to begin the game. The ground shook heavily and a pyramid emerged from beneath the sand. They were then greeted by an elemental Meep, who started explaining the rules of the game. Before beginning, the Meep assigned each participant a blue flower, explaining that their job was to take care of it or they'd be disqualified. Once the buds bloomed, the flowers would show 3 different colors: the special golden flower, the poison flower, and the rest as white sandflowers. The goal of the game was to offer the sunflower to the highest level of the pyramid. Hearing this, Faye calculated the distance to the pyramid to be 2 or 3 kilometers. However, the catch was the gods' team, which was on defense, would try to steal their flowers during the game. When the enemy team was revealed, everyone was flabbergasted to see it was made up of cute cats. The cat's job was to take the flowers from their hands, but if the players managed to steal the cat's flowers, the cats would be eliminated. However, if the cats stole their golden flower, the whole team would be eliminated. The Meep also revealed that the gods' team would possess 1 golden flower and 1 poison flower. But if a poison flower was stolen, the opposing team would be debuffed and stunned for 5 seconds, resulting in their immediate loss. Their job was to protect the sunflower and let the enemy steal the poison flower. Faye then asked if it was allowed for them to exchange information about their flowers, and the Meep confirmed it was. Faye then nudged open his buds to find he had a normal sandflower. However, Pearl soon revealed she had the golden flower, followed by Kelrich revealing that she had the poison flower. The Meep advised them to carefully decide who would carry which flower, continued with Faye explaining the 3 winning conditions and begins strategizing with the team. Essentially, this game was a race across the desert with enormous cats trying to impede their progress. Initially, Faye intended to leave the sunflower with Leche, but they realized it would be too obvious. So Leche suggested that her holding the poison flower would be a better idea. They then sought a candidate for the sunflower, asking for players with superhuman arises, shocked to learn that Kelrich was also one. Faye asked the Meep whether trading flowers was allowed and was informed that it was possible. However, the catch was that throughout the game, they must always be in possession of one flower. If they were not, they would be immediately disqualified. However, a player could sacrifice themselves by throwing their own flower to another teammate. Suddenly, Dax approached Faye, who was lost in thought, and told him that he must be the one to decide the roles. As it turned out, he had lost a bet, and this time he would focus solely on supporting his one and only rival. Camilla then provided Faye with the other players' data for him to analyze. He then instructed everyone to give him their flowers to shuffle and assign to each of them. After assigning everyone their flowers, Faye explained his strategy. He instructed everyone to keep their flowers a secret, aiming to confuse the gods' team and prevent them from targeting the sunflower. He asked everyone to trust in his strategy, thus beginning the game. The Meep then introduced the god they were facing, who descended from the sky and landed on top of the pyramid. Using telepathy, the god introduced himself as Mathma II and summoned a flower of his own. This led them to speculate that the flower in his hand would be opposing team's sunflower. As the game commenced, both Faye and Leche revealed that they were the flower carriers. His led others to speculate that both the poison and golden flowers were distributed between the two of them. However, Balegar pointed out that this might also be a bluff, a likely possibility. Everyone was confused by their actions, but Dax and Nell looked forward to whatever plan Faye had in store. The Meep then officially began the game, and everyone sprinted towards the pyramid. Rumbling could be heard from the distance as hundreds of cats started to emerge from beneath the sand. Despite the chaos, Pearl took a moment to admire the cuteness of the cats. The god revealed that there were 1667 cats against the 15 humans in this match, which everyone deemed unfair. Camilla mentioned that initially she only saw 3 cats and the god, so she thought the game would be easy. But Kelrich dashed past everyone even without activating her Arise, which impressed Faye. He calculated the speed difference between the cats and the players, realizing that the cats were designed to outspeed the players. He speculated that they only had 30 seconds left before the cats caught up to them, prompting the need for a new plan. Suddenly, a mage cat appeared out of nowhere and caused a huge sandstorm, blocking their path. In this game, players would also get penalized if they ran too far away. As they tried to devise a plan, some of the cats had already caught up to the players, eliminating them. A player attempted to attack one of the cats, but it remained unaffected and regenerated its body. As Camilla was about to be attacked, she cast a frostbite spell, immobilizing the cats. Dax also joined in, blowing a huge chunk of the cats using a spell he named Dax Hurricane. However, one cat managed to catch Pearl off guard and slightly tore her clothes away, revealing her undergarments. As she tried to escape, a perverted cat caught her, worrying Faye. Witnessing this, Kelrich punched the perverted cat, saving Pearl from being eliminated. As their numbers quickly dwindled, Leche used her powers to split the ground into 2, slowing down the cats. Kelrich, however, worried about upsetting Leche and the consequences it might have on the human world. To their surprise, the terrain quickly regenerated, controlled by the god's powers within the game's elements. Spotting an oasis in the distance, Camilla questioned its purpose, but Dax urged them to focus on the goal, the pyramid. Despite their efforts, the cats quickly caught up again. Faye instructed Leche to use her powers once more to slow them down. But this time, the cats managed to jump over the gap and block their attacks with defensive magic. In a desperate mood, Camilla sacrificed herself to distract the cats and slow them down with her magic. As they ran, Kelrich advised Dax to hide his flower, but he kept it in his hand as a precaution. Suddenly, the mage cat punished them again for going too far, catching Dax in its sandstorm. Pearl attempted to save him with her portal, but it was too late, and they watched helplessly as Dax was engulfed. Enraged by Dax's fate, Kelrich decided to stall the cats, joined by Leche, who revealed she didn't actually have the golden flower. They split into 2 teams, one aiming for the goal while the other stalled the cats. In the real world, Camilla apologized to Balagar, who commended their performance and asked about the golden flower. She speculated that Faye should be the one with the gold flower, as they were headed for the pyramid. Dax met Nell and informed her that he had fulfilled their bet, urging her to watch the game closely. Back in the elements, Mathma congratulated them for their progress and challenged them to finish. Suddenly, more cats emerged, holding Faye in place, intensifying the challenge. In a bold move, Faye throws his flower to Pearl and instructs her to finish the game. Pearl uses her powers to teleport above Mathma and delivers a powerful punch to his staff, successfully stealing the flower. However, her triumph turns to dismay as she realizes it's the poison flower. The god had anticipated this, revealing that the true golden flower was hidden in the oasis, a place most would overlook. As the god retrieves the flowers from Pearl, he's shocked to find neither she nor the others possess the golden flower. Faye then reveals the golden flower, explaining he had two flowers all along. Dax had secretly transferred it through Pearl's power during the sandstorm created by the cat mages, hiding the transfer effectively. Impressed by their strategy, the god still challenges Faye, but Leche's clever move of giving a cat the poison flower stuns the god for 5 seconds, giving Faye an opportunity. Utilizing Capricious' strength, Faye reaches the top of the pyramid, securing their victory. With the flower atop the pyramid, the human team wins. The god congratulates them and awards Faye with a golden flower. In the real world, Faye confronts Nell again about her intentions. She reveals her desire to challenge the god's games as an apostle. Faye invites her to participate, explaining there's a way for her to do so. Later in the office, Miss Overflow introduces them to the unique god, the bookmaker. Winning against him reduces a player's loss count, but someone must wager a win to challenge him. Faye volunteers to offer one of his wins to help Nell regain her apostle status. The scene shifts 96 hours later, showing Nell facing the bookmaker, troubled but determined as he takes the form of herself. Back in the present, Faye is deep in thought, confident about their upcoming match against the bookmaker. As they travel back to Ruin, Nell is visibly nervous. Pearl, sensing her tension, playfully blows into Nell's ear, easing her anxiety. Faye then explains more about the bookmaker, emphasizing that the match will be a one-on-one battle. By wagering one of Faye's wins, they can reduce Nell's loss count, allowing her to rejoin the god's games. Nell feels uneasy about wagering one of Faye's precious wins. Faye, however, seems unfazed, which prompts Nell to lecture him on the importance of his achievements. She highlights that the chance of someone winning against the gods is a mere 11%, making each win incredibly valuable. Faye reassures her, stating they have a chance against the bookmaker. Pearl is skeptical, but Faye admits he doesn't have a specific plan yet. He hints at having some crucial information he cannot disclose, but admits he has never faced the bookmaker himself. Leche, ever optimistic, expresses her confidence in Nell. She encourages her, emphasizing that there's no way Nell will lose after wagering Faye's wins and rejecting the world tour for this challenge. Feeling the immense pressure of their expectations, Nell faints, bringing the scene to a close. At the main branch, they meet again with the one and only glorious Miss Overflow, who congratulates them on their world tour performance. She welcomes Nell warmly, accepting a souvenir as a gesture of apology for the trouble caused. Miss Overflow then asks Nell when she wants to challenge the bookmaker, probing into her confidence and readiness. After a brief discussion, it was decided that the match would be held the next day. Back at the girls' dormitory, a welcoming party is held for Nell to celebrate her joining their group. Leche, fascinated by the softness of Pearl's bed, falls asleep almost instantly. Nell then expresses her gratitude to Pearl for the warm welcome. Pearl, in turn, shares her relief at having another ordinary person in the party, as she often felt out of place among the more powerful members. Touched by this, Nell hugs Pearl, causing their drinks to spill accidentally. Pearl then suggests they take a bath together. As soon as this idea is proposed, Leche quickly excuses herself, urging them to go ahead without her. In the bath, Nell is taken aback by Pearl's sleeper build, particularly her melons. She comments on the size of Pearl's melons, expressing envy, and quickly understands why Leche might have avoided bathing together. Pearl, however, trying to shift the focus, compliments Nell's thighs, calling them one of her charms. This boosts Nell's confidence, and she imagines Faye being attracted to her thighs. The scene shifts to them standing in front of the Heavenly Gate, where Miss Overflow explains the rules of the upcoming match. It will be a pure one-on-one battle against the god, with no outside intervention allowed. The match is designed in such a way that no cameras will work in the bookmaker's realm. As they enter the bookmaker's realm, they find themselves in a dark room resembling a casino, with a poker table at its center. Nell is confused and questions the bookmaker's intentions. A voice from the distance reveals that this realm is a manifestation of Nell's own mind. The room's darkness represents her insecurities, while the strong ceiling lights symbolize her willpower. Pearl is shocked to see the bookmaker taking on Nell's form. The clone introduces herself as Grimoire, explaining that the bookmaker is just one of her many aliases, as she is known by around 200 different names. Before beginning the game, Faye tries to confirm the game's rules and states that he will be wagering 3 of his wins. Shocked by this revelation, Pearl and Nell initially deny his wager, but Faye insists that it is okay. They seek Leche's help, but to their surprise, Leche also agrees with Faye's wager. Grimoire, approving the bet, chooses poker for today's challenge. She explains that she is currently in a good mood as it has been ages since she was last challenged. Before starting the game, she reminds the others to stay silent as giving advice or cheering is not allowed. In this game, each side is granted 5 coins representing their lives. They receive 5 cards, each with 1 chance to discard unwanted cards. In the first round, both players discard 3 cards, indicating they both have a 2 pair. Grimoire tells Nell to bet first, and Nell raises the bet by 1 coin. To everyone's surprise, Grimoire goes all in. Trying to uncover her intentions, Nell deduces that this isn't a bluff, as the god wouldn't risk ending the game in the first round. Reluctantly, she folds, saving herself from an instant loss but leaving her with 3 coins going into the second round. In the second round, Nell receives a weak hand and decides to discard 4 cards. Grimoire, however, discards only 1, making Nell second-guess herself. Nell raises the bet, but Grimoire quickly matches it. This makes Nell think Grimoire has a better hand, causing her to fold once again. It is then revealed that Grimoire was bluffing and Nell could have won back her coins had she matched the bet. Suddenly, the god mentioned the reason for Nell's loss is because she had no intentions to win. From the start, Nell only intended on not wasting Faye's wins, while not having the intentions to win. She warns her that she won't be able to win if she does not risk anything. Entering the third round, Nell is left with 1 coin left and decides to discard 1 card, leaving the outcome of the match to the final card she draws. As she draws the last card, she is in disbelief as this was not the outcome she had wished for. Grimoire soon reveals her hand and ends the game at 3-0 sweep. In denial of the outcome, Nell passes out in front of everyone. The god, disappointed by her lack of strength, takes 3 of Faye's wins and tells them to go home. However, Faye suddenly told Grimoire that all this has been going according to his plan. He continues by challenging the bookmaker into another game, wagering 3 more of his wins. Faye thanks Nell for her hard work and tells her that she has been supporting him all this time. Accepting the challenge, the god alters the room once again, revealing her game of choice. Grimoire's rung shifts again, taking on the guise of the god's casino, a testament to the complexity of Faye's mind. In her true form, unable to mirror Faye's appearance or arise, Grimoire lays out the rules for their challenge. She declares that she will cheat in each game using a single method, and Faye's task is to discern the method used. Leche, filled with confidence, laughs and reassures the group to trust Faye. The first game is a simple coin flip. Grimoire explains the process. Nell, as the first dealer, flips the coin twice, once before and once after Faye chooses a side. Despite Faye's analytical efforts, he fails to detect the cheat, and the coin lands opposite his choice, resulting in his loss. Faye reassures Nell that it's not her fault and urges Grimoire to move on to the next game, aware of their limited time. The second game is poker, with Leche acting as the dealer. She shows them the new cards, shuffles, and deals 5 cards each. Faye receives a 2 pair with an ace, a solid hand. Grimoire, wishing him luck, asks about his hand. In a surprising move, Faye decides to switch his entire hand, relying on luck to reveal the cheat. Grimoire then reveals her hand, a straight flush, shocking Faye as he is unable to detect any signs of cheating during the game. He suspects manipulation of objects through the god's power, but it doesn't account for the improbable straight flush. Faye and the group proceed to the third game, Old Maid, with Pearl as the final dealer. Her nervousness causes her to fumble the cards, but she eventually distributes them, leaving Faye with 1 more card than Grimoire. During the game, Grimoire takes the joker from Faye's hand and shuffles her own cards. Faye manages to match a pair, leaving him with 3 cards and a 66.6% chance of winning. However, when he chooses a card, he is shocked to receive the joker, losing the match. With the game seemingly over, Grimoire asks Faye for his answer regarding her cheating method. Faye, however, challenges her to one final game of Old Maid, claiming he'll win this time. Fast forward to the end stages of this game, and to Grimoire's surprise, Faye successfully avoids drawing the joker, which had been affected by her cheat. Faye reveals that the cheat Grimoire used in all the games involved his friends. He explains that the god manipulated the cards using Pearl's powers, but only when the joker was in her hand. In the last match, Faye avoided creating this condition, thus outsmarting the god. Satisfied with Faye's deduction, Grimoire returns his initial wager and erases all 3 of Nell's losses. Before ending the game, the god questions Faye's true intentions as he risked all his wins for an uncertain outcome. Faye explains that he calculated everything from the start, wanting everyone to finish the god's game together. Grimoire thanks Faye for the match and wishes them luck in clearing the god's game, teleporting them back to the human realm. Back at the office, everyone celebrates their victory against Grimoire and welcomes Nell to their party. As they prepare to report to Mrs. Overflow, they are informed of a significant problem in the god's game. Mrs. Overflow explains that 200 players were forcibly assembled in a huge labyrinth and must complete it to return. It has been 57 hours since the game started, and none of the players have returned. The labyrinth includes a respawn system, which is part of the reason for the players being stuck. She then reveals that their team has been chosen as part of the rescue operation. Nell questions the nature of the game, as it seems like the gods are granting the humans a guaranteed win. But the only catch to this game was that it was incredibly hard and everyone was forced to clear it before being able to return. Before entering the game, Mrs. Overflow informs them of their two goals, which was to complete the game and rescue everyone trapped inside. She apologizes for troubling after facing the bookmaker and wishes them the best of luck. As they entered the game, they were met with two difficulty choices. Leche and Faye obviously picked the hardest mode, followed by Pearl and Nell choosing the easy mode. Panicking as her teammates chose the hardest mode, Pearl questions Faye's actions. However, in his usual calm demeanor, he assures Pearl that there might be a secret in their victory in the hard mode, causing him to choose it over the easy mode. Before the game begins, a number is displayed on the top of their heads and they are soon teleported into the labyrinth. However, they soon found the labyrinth to be a cozy and relaxing place with lots of fruit trees. Agreeing to take a break, they decided to rest under a tree where suddenly Pearl is attacked by an apple she was about to pick. As she is respawned back to the game, the team becomes more determined to beat this difficult game. Back in the bookmaker's elements, she ponders on how long it'll take before another human challenges her. However, Ouroboros suddenly breaks into her element and questions the presence of Faye's team. As they delve deeper into the labyrinth, everyone starts to get a hang of the mechanics inside the game. Pearl boasts about her newfound ability to dodge the apples, but Faye reminds her that it took a lot of deaths for her to adapt. As Pearl encourages everyone to resume their adventure, she gets backshot by an apple, bringing her back to the spawn point. After some time in the game, they come across a deep sinkhole, causing them to pause. Leche tries to analyze the sinkhole, but Faye believes it is merely there to shake their mentality, and they decide to press on, ignoring the sinkhole. Soon, they arrive at the main building of the labyrinth, where they are congratulated for completing the tutorial. Amip then welcomes them to the divine labyrinth of Rushamare and explains the rules of the game. Their goal is to defeat the final boss located at the end of the labyrinth, which is filled with monsters. However, the labyrinth also contains items that help players conquer it. Meep explains that they can combine two items to make another item and that each player can carry only two items at a time. When a player dies, everyone respawns at the starting point, losing everything they've acquired and resetting the dungeon completely. As they conquer the labyrinth, the number on their heads will gradually increase. Faye also questions Meep on how to return to their world, and Meep explains that they must clear the final boss, acquire the saved items, and only then will they be able to return to the human world. Before starting the main labyrinth, Meep shares a legend about the god who created the labyrinth. Once upon a time, there was a god who loved building labyrinths, but no one managed to conquer her labyrinth, and the god died of boredom, ending the story. After telling them everything they needed to know, Meep welcomes them to the divine labyrinth of Rushamare, and the game begins. Inside the labyrinth, they encounter some hairy creatures that Pearl labels as puffs. However, the puffs suddenly leap onto their bodies, but to their surprise, they do no damage and instead leave some materials. Using two pieces of wood dropped by the puffs, Pearl crafts a wooden shield, increasing the number on her head. As they venture deeper into the labyrinth, they spot a seemingly rare golden puff and assume it will drop a rare item. Pearl tries to approach the golden puff, but it suddenly grows larger and wipes them out with a fire attack, bringing them back to the entrance. There they are greeted with the same dialogue from the Meep, and Leche mentions feeling weaker inside the labyrinth, attributing it to the difficulty they chose. They decide to attempt the labyrinth once more, strategizing a plan to defeat the golden puff. This time, Nell has an idea and tells the others to stay back. As the golden puff attacks with its fire magic, Nell uses her moment reversal to deflect the attack back to the golden puff. Upon its defeat, the golden puff drops a key item that can be used to advance to the next room. However, as Nell leads the way, she's eliminated by a burning apple, sending them all back to the start yet again. Realizing that everything in the dungeon resets upon their elimination, Faye concludes that they must avoid even a single mistake to clear the dungeon. He encourages the team, telling them that every failure is a learning experience and to enjoy the game. Back in the labyrinth, the team experiments with the crafting system and creates various useful items. As they advance, Faye suddenly hears human footsteps and stops everyone. He is shocked to find his senior's team also trying to clear the dungeon and decides to form an alliance with them. As they share knowledge, Faye's senior mentions finding one half of a key. Seeing this, Nell quickly gives them the other half obtained from the golden puff. The senior combines the two halves, creating a key for the execution site. Using the items gathered from the labyrinth, they check for traps in the execution room and find it safe. However, they soon feel something is off and discover breathing coming from an area of the dungeon. Faye deduces that the lack of detection might be because the boss is currently sleeping and decides to use their items to awaken it. As Faye and Leche use their items, a rain of light descends from the sky, eliminating everyone in the room. During their second attempt, they craft a magic reflection shield to counter the attack, but to their surprise, it doesn't work and eliminates everyone once again. After many failed attempts, Faye asks if Nell can reflect the attack using her moment reversal. However, she can only reflect 1% of the magic. As they run out of ideas, Faye notices something strange from the death messages they receive. He soon deduces that something other than the players must prevent the meteorite attacks and decides to use the umbrella they crafted earlier. Surprisingly, the umbrella endures the attack, and they are met with the main boss fight. Everyone charges at the boss but can only deal 1 damage to it. Another player uses an item to analyze the boss and discovers that it has 2.5 million health, making them fear that defeating it would be impossible. However, they realize that the boss inflicts damage on itself when it counterattacks, presenting an opportunity to defeat it. They only need to make a counterattack and dodge its attacks, letting it harm itself until it has no health left. As the battle nears its end, one of the players is almost eliminated by the boss's attack. Seeing this, Nell springs into action, finishing the boss with 2 powerful kicks. Worried for her safety, Pearl hugs Nell and gives her the boss drop item called the Bell of Resurrection. Curious about its name, Nell rings the bell only to find the same boss respond. Suddenly, Ouroboros breaks through the labyrinth and lands on top of the boss, stating that she's been looking for Faye's party the entire time. Ouroboros tells them that she made the bookmaker erase her only loss and demands that Faye's party play with her again. Annoyed by the boss's movements, she punches the boss, dealing 8 million damage and killing it in 1 blow. The group was stunned when Ouroboros one-shotted the boss, causing an item to drop from the defeated monster. This item, one of the save items mentioned by the Meep, would allow players to return to the real world. However, Ouroboros questioned their happiness, pointing out that this item wouldn't help them clear the game. She noted something peculiar about the game that prevented players from completing it entirely. Faye then shared his observation that in all of the gods' games, the players are always facing the gods. He recalled the Meep's story about a god who died from boredom because no one managed to conquer her labyrinth. Combining these 2 points, they concluded that defeating the last boss, which is the god herself, might be impossible. With this information, Faye suggested that the other players return to Earth and inform Mrs. Overflow about this potential bug. Faye's team, however, would stay in the labyrinth to confirm their suspicions. As the players used the save item to leave the game, the labyrinth transformed into a normal cave. The Meep reappeared, warning Ouroboros about interfering with another god's game. It then welcomed them to the next level, the underworld, and wished them luck in achieving a clear. As they delved deeper into the 2nd floor, Nell recommended leading the way due to her arise being effective against traps. Faye questioned Ouroboros about how long she would follow them, but she silenced him, claiming she knew everything. She then proposed inviting them to a new game but got distracted by a yellow button on the wall. She pressed the button, causing the wall to spray pepper spray all over Pearl's face. Suddenly, Nell told everyone to keep quiet, having heard a noise. Following the sound, they encountered a small witch and a sick Puff. Pearl, worried about the Puff, picked it up, only for it to puke all over Nell. They soon found the treasure room of the dungeon, guarded by Angel Pizza Pudding. The Guardian offered to grant them 1 wish. After some deliberation, the group decided they wanted the keys to the door. However, Angel Pizza Pudding noticed their filth and banished them with purification magic. They discovered that this happened because of the pepper spray and vomit, which the angel deemed filthy. Faye then questioned why Ouroboros was also respawned with them and realized she was now considered a teammate, which made her happy. During her second try, Nell suddenly heard a waterfall somewhere in the labyrinth and decided to approach it. They soon encountered the beautiful waterfall, which had a chest hidden behind it. Thinking it was the key to the room, they were shocked to find bathing suits inside the chest. Thinking the room was just for fun, they left it alone and continued their advance. Not long after, they encountered a hallway filled with apple paintings. Learning from her past mistakes, Pearl told them to stay away from the hall. However, a rotten apple suddenly broke the window and hit her in the back. To their surprise, the apple did not eliminate Pearl, so they continued to the treasure room once again. There, the angel asked about their wish again. When they told him, he found them filthy once more and banished them to the last respawn point. Enraged, Pearl and the team treaded the labyrinth carefully and reached the treasure room once again. Despite avoiding all traps, the angel still labeled them as filthy due to their past encounters. Coming back to the respawn point again, they tried to figure out a plan to complete this level. Suddenly, the girls struck with an idea and told Faye to wait in front of the treasure room. They then attempted to approach the angel for the last time. To Faye's surprise, the angel opened the door for them. He questioned the trick to get past the angel, and the girls explained that the key to the puzzle was their smell. Pearl explained that the smell from previous encounters caused the angel to label them as filthy. She remembered the bathing suits they encountered earlier. They cleaned themselves in a waterfall but got too distracted, taking longer than expected. Faye commended everyone for their great work, and they proceeded into the treasure room. Inside, they found another item, allowing them to store 100 items and keep their items upon death. Suddenly, a meat popped out of nowhere and congratulated them for reaching the last boss, dropping them through a trapdoor under their feet. The trapdoor led them to a boss arena with a pyramid in the middle, which turned out to be the grave of the god who created the labyrinth. Remembering that the labyrinth was called the Labyrinth of Death and Rebirth, they soon theorized that this was a hint to finishing the last dungeon boss. Pearl tried to use the Bell of Resurrection she got earlier from the lion boss, but nothing happened. Faye recalled the words said by the god from the Meep's initial story and concluded that they must first finish the dungeon before challenging the god. He pointed out the release value given to them when they entered the game and figured out that they had to make it reach 100. This meant they had to explore every part of the dungeon, obtain every item, and uncover all the secrets behind the dungeon's gimmicks. Initially, the others were worried this might take a long time to achieve. However, Faye reminded them that they could accomplish this if all 200 players worked together. The scene shifted to Faye's senior entering the dungeon, seeing that they had collected multiple copies of the dungeon's items. Faye welcomed his senior, who asked about the map they had made to conquer the dungeon. He then gave his senior the key item and told him to assist in collecting the dungeon's items to reach max completion. Suddenly, Pearl and Nell rushed over to the duo and revealed that they had discovered something new when they'd brought the sick puffs to the waterfall. The cured puffs led them to a secret village and gave them a secret item, making them friends with all the puffs. Everyone from the other branches also participated in clearing the dungeon, splitting into multiple teams to speed up the process. Faye's team then discovered another hidden room with a Sphinx statue and a big ruby. As they talked, the Sphinx statue suddenly transformed into a hidden boss, claiming to be stronger than any other boss they had encountered before. However, as it finished its transformation, Ouroboros punched the boss once, sending it flying and obliterating it. Realizing what she had done, the same Meep appeared in the room and kicked her out of the labyrinth. While being transported, Ouroboros wished the others good luck and told them she would be waiting for them to clear the game. As they neared the end of the dungeon, everyone was tired from non-stop exploring. Suddenly, Pearl came back once more and told Faye that they had found the final gimmick in the dungeon. They were brought to a shrine with multiple face dice and were instructed to make everything into one. Faye tried to attempt the gimmick but found it too hard as the dice had 24 faces, making the probability too small. Dax soon appeared behind them and told the group to leave this gimmick to him. Before attempting the gimmick, he cleaned all the dice, not wanting to dirty his godly hands. As he rolled the dice, he instantly made all of them into one, completing the challenge in a single try. After completing the gimmick, they receive an item capable of reversing death once, and their release value skyrocketed to 99,999%. This puzzled everyone, since this was supposed to be the final gimmick. Faye recalled one unexplored area, the huge hole near their spawn. Believing the hole to be the last gimmick, they jumped down, and the number turned to 100%. The hole was a shortcut to the dungeon's last boss, hidden in plain sight. Upon meeting the conditions, they rang the bell again, causing the pyramid to glow and reviving the labyrinth's god. The god introduced herself as Anubis, the god of the underworld, and congratulated them for completing the labyrinth. She then summoned every monster in the dungeon, shocking the group. As the battle commenced, she ordered the lion to use its special move. Having faced the lion before, they quickly equipped the umbrella, deflecting its attack and annihilating everything around it. Baffled, the god accidentally obliterated the lion with her staff. Realizing Anubis' weakness was her own impulsiveness, Faye told Pearl to launch an attack using an item that claimed to work on any boss. They found out the attack did nothing, and Anubis continued summoning more minions while chanting her ultimate spell. These puffs posed no threat as they had obtained an item to befriend all puffs. Anubis changed the rules and completed her chant, obliterating everyone in the arena. Everyone perished from her ultimate attack, but the item from the last gimmick reversed their deaths before shattering. Surprised they were still alive, Anubis spammed her erase spells, casting her ultimate spell one last time. This time, the boss sealed all their items, leaving them no chance to counterattack. Desperate, Nell charged towards the spell and used momentum reversal to reverse it, which surprisingly worked. Still unsatisfied, Anubis summoned all her minions and cast her ultimate attack, but she cleared the path and Pearl used her powers to teleport them away from the impact. The blast destroyed the entire arena, but they survived due to everyone's efforts. As Anubis descended, she revealed her satisfaction that someone cleared her game and withstood her attacks. She rewarded the humans with victory and gave Faye a special item allowing them to summon anything from the labyrinth into the real world. Anubis wished that Roop luck and told them she would be waiting to challenge them again when the time came before vanishing into the sky. Back in the real world, everyone congratulates Faye and his party who successfully cleared the unbeatable game, while they once again plan to challenge the next God Games. This then concludes the full recap of this anime. If you enjoyed this video and want more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Take you